Welcome to another video with Discover Dunwoody. I am Mark Gallman, the Director of Marketing here at Discover Dunwoody. We are so glad you're with us. We are going to speak to a member of our local city government today, and he is Joe Seconder. He is, is there a title that goes with your city council, like third division, or is it just city council member?
Post 5,
There we
District
go.
2 at large, city councilman.
Well, we are so glad that Joe made some time to come by and chat with us today. And I'm going to really put him under the tight, that white hot spotlight that we love to see our politicians. I'm going to ask him the hard question, not the softballs. You ready?
You betcha.
All right. So we're going to start here. You were deployed. You were you served. You were in Iraq. I think you said you were in Kuwait. Now, I'm not going to ask about, the details that end up in movies. I want to know, what did you learn from that experience that helps you serve as a city council member and in work today?
Yeah, so it's funny, we as humans, I don't make this, sound all, philosophical, but we are a summation of all of our life's experiences.
Right.
I delivered pizzas. I worked for 8 years selling shoes, making commission in retail. All right. Then I did the military, and then I did consulting in the IT field, where right now I'm a project manager at Accenture Consulting, managing a team of 17 people, and the client's team, and as about 30 people. So it's about decision making. It's about bringing forth good information, critical thinking. People want to react and say things very quickly in life today. You want to just spew out things, it's reacting.
Right.
And life is about how do you react to things. And the same way, whether you're deployed in a combat situation, how you're reacting, but you have to assess that information and make a decision. And that's what I strive to do on city council. I had a passion for subject X or Y, and that's why I ran for council. That's what I'm focusing on. But guess what? Not just X and Y show up on our council agendas. Mm-hmm. And we get put forth many things like adopting a new sign ordinance. I don't know many people running for office that say, I'm running for office because I want to adopt a new sign ordinance.
I'm all excited about signs.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Right. But yet,
Yet it's so important.
right,
Ultimately.
to look at the impacts, to how do you make the decisions, how do you collect information, bring in other stakeholders, and come back forth with, okay, these are the questions I'm asking, and then therefore, you can say this is my decision, of what we're moving forward on.
This is good. All right, I think that's really interesting, and I am going to buy you a beer and talk more about the experiences you had in the service, and thank you for your service to the country. Now today, the Homeowners Association does great things for our community. What are some of those projects, some of the, I would call it activation, that they do for our community?
Right, and when you say Homeowners Association, I almost want to refer to it as a civics organization. A Dunwoody civic organization about just people coming together as volunteers. So what's the peak event is really the 4th of July parade. It's awesome. It's the largest parade in all of Georgia. It's been going on for decades. It's a community event. It's a capstone event here. We love it. They put that on. Awesome job. There's Light Up Dunwoody that comes in for the holidays in November timeframe there in the village. That happens. They sponsor the food trucks on Thursday over at Brook Run. The farmers market on Saturday mornings.
So real quick, Food Truck Thursday starts, April-ish, maybe? But definitely runs across the summer. I should know the dates off the top of my head, but I don't. But every Thursday, you can go to Brook Run and have dinner with a bunch of food trucks. Actually, it's really cool.
It's great, and they have bands there, music, and it's just awesome. A fun community engagement, because really think about what makes a community. It's people getting together and getting to know each other. Yes, we may live and sleep here and drive, but you're driving somewhere and you're in a car. When you get outside of your car and you're with people and you're hanging out, that's really being a community.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so one of the things that you've done in the past is you've been very involved in sustainability. You were formerly on the board and the president of the Georgia Bikes Association. So I got to ask you, do you still bike?
Yeah, a bit. It's more for exercise, I could say, but
Sure.
it clears the brain, clears the head. I do a little more mountain biking these days. I just
that's fun.
and just go up near off of Columns Drive. There's a great place in the national park there at Soap Creek, and literally within 15-minute drive of here, you can be in the woods and you don't even know where you are in a big metro area.
One of the things about Atlanta, for those of you who don't live here, is everything is within your reach in our city, right? So here we are in Dunwoody, but you can get to Columns Drive, which is just around the street, for biking, for hiking. That's on the Chattahoochee, or you can be in the North Georgia mountains in an hour, hour and a half for another biking trip, which is a little more strenuous, but we are very close to everything.
That's right. And quick back to the
Yeah.
biking thing. For the on road, what's amazing if you look back there, we're going to try to build out a whole new kind of trail network and keep it protected so that people that are 8 years old or 80 years old can feel comfortable to go ride a bike, just a
that's
couple of
good.
miles.
Yeah.
See if I live over by Jet Ferry and Mount Vernon there at the Williamsburg area, but my wife doesn't want to ride her bike on Mount Vernon. Can you imagine that? I don't know why, but she just doesn't want to ride her bike
It's
on
a
Mount Vernon.
little busy.
So if we can build that out so she can go the 2 miles, guess what that takes? 10 minutes. It's a 10-minute bike ride to go 2 miles. And all of our little nodes are only 2 miles apart. So we're working with the Path Foundation right now, doing a Trails
great.
Master Plan, okay? And it's like, now, how do we fund that and build that? Well, right now it's in January.
Yep, right.
And fingers crossed that we may be asking the citizens whether they want to have skin in the game to say for capital investments, strategic investments, that we may have a bond referendum put on the ballot this coming November.
Got it.
With
To-
a
for
well-rounded,
that type of work.
potentially do that,
That's good.
build out our parks, and some other unmet capital needs. We've been vetting them with a capital projects committee that Tom Lambert stood up. We're going to have our council retreat coming up in March that we're going to really sit down and focus on that. Roswell just passed a very, very extensive bond referendum this last November. Probably a total of maybe $150, $170 million projects.
Wow, wow.
Alpharetta did a couple years ago with their parks.
This is good.
Brookhaven did it a few years ago. So we think that our citizens, if we provide them the information, it's up to them, right? It's not up to us, that we can provide a well-rounded list and say, what do you think? And at the end of the day, it's up to them
like
to
this.
decide.
So the Path Foundation, if you haven't looked them up, check out the internet. Look up Path Foundation. This is a group that does a very good job of understanding how to build pedestrian areas on a street or off a street, and we are actually fortunate. They're based in Georgia. They do great work all over the city, and you can see a lot of the other things that they do to have the ability to pull them in, do some work, or do it on our own is all good. So I think that that's fantastic. All right, I want to ask you a question. You told me that you lived overseas. Where did you live overseas, and for how long?
Yeah, I lived in Zurich, Switzerland for 4 years. Then, of course, I was jumped over during that time frame, went over to Kuwait with my unit for a year, got
okay.
deployed, and then lived in Copenhagen for a year.
Zurich, Kuwait, Copenhagen.
and Belfast for about half a year.
Wow, Belfast. Oh, I'm Irish, so I love that.
And the whole time, the first 4 years when I was in Zurich, I was traveling all over Western Europe consulting. So yes, I go in the office in Zurich sometimes, but oh, by the way, I have to go to Madrid, and honey, do you want to spend the weekend? Or we're going to Milan for work, and let's stay over.
So I love that. I'd spent some time outside of my hometown here of Atlanta, and that experience was terrific. When you experience other cities, especially in a whole nother country, you pick up a lot of things. Was any part of that influential in you wanting to be on city council? And if yes, why?
That's exactly right, Mark. It completely changed my life perspective. Prior to me moving to Europe and then returning back to the States, I had never attended a local government meeting. I didn't know who would be on the ballot. I looked at national level partisan politics and thought that was it.
Because the national politics has a huge impact on us. And I'm kidding, but tongue in cheek, your local, Joe has a lot more impact on everybody locally here in Dunwoody than the national politics does. So you took that experience in Europe and you found that, gosh, I need to get involved here locally.
how do you affect change in the public realm? How do things happen? From a sidewalk being put in to a development coming in, to the parks, to the police, to the budgets. How do things work? So I came back and I got involved in advocacy. And again, it's all back to decision making, building coalitions, and knowing that is officially I'm an outsider, I don't have a vote, but yet the citizens can have impact.
Right.
And I tell you, I pivot back to people be screaming and jumping up and down about national politics, and I come back to say, do you really know what's going on in your own zip code?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And you can't scream and do these kind of things if you truly want to get things done. If you want to collaborate, do you want to have compromise? I have things where I say, I'm at 100, but maybe we're at 0 now. I still want 100, but you know what? If you get 20% of that, that's infinitely more than 0.
Yeah, that's
right?
a great point. So let's talk about local, hyper-local things. What is going on in the city that you think is really great right now?
So it's a big picture when you step back, because I have to say we've had approximately a 41% turnover in property owners in Dunwoody in the last decade.
41% of home ownership flipped in the last decade. That seems high, and I don't know how to compare that to anything.
If you start looking at the road I live on, we've had about a 50% turnover since I've lived there.
Wow.
And when we see where people are, it's a cycle of life. Mm-hmm. People move in, they raise their families, maybe they downsize, they move to a different community. Now we have younger families and people moving into those homes.
Right.
And so on. So when you say what's really happening in Dunwoody, first, it's the demographic shift of just new people coming in. And they just see things and say, oh, it just has always been here. When they go to Brook Run Park today and they've just moved here 3 years ago, they just think this has been here.
Yeah.
When they walk over to see the Dunwoody Village Parkway and there's sidewalks and trees on the side of it, they just assume they've always been sidewalks on Dunwoody Village Parkway.
Right.
And so on. They just assume that we have a police force. They assume they can contact the council or mayor, and which they can. We are so accessible. We all are. That's what I say is it's not just one thing. It's where we are today. You just peel back the layer and go back to Google Street View maps and change it back 10 years and see what it used to look like. And then you assess that. People look at projects that are going down today. Look at Chamblee, Dunwoody, and Georgetown. There's construction going on. It looks horrible now. Right? It's metal plates. It's disruption. I look at those things, and I've seen those things in the past. I remember when the Brook Run Trail was being built. These new pedestrian bridges being built. There's delays and so on and so forth. And you're like, when is it going to happen? And now it just looks beautiful.
Oh, it's fantastic.
There.
Right.
And so. I tell you what I see as the best potential is the improvements to the Dunwoody Village. We have, going into this last year, we have never had a joint meeting between the Development Authority and the Dunwoody City Council. We have a development authority, and you hear about development authorities. It's a legal entity that can provide tax abatements. They can do a lot of things working with private entities, a lot more things than the government officially can do. Okay? Sure. They incent businesses. They help bring in the people like State Farm and all those things, okay?
Yeah.
They give them tax abatements, but then after a 20-year turn, they end up still bringing in more revenue to pay for that infrastructure. So we've focused on the Dunwoody Village. People have been begging for change in the Dunwoody Village. We know it's all owned by private people, but it doesn't matter because we are on City Council. We have to make tough decisions, and it's complicated. Right. But you can't just say, oh, our hands are tied because it's private developer.
Right.
Regency, the primary owner inside Dunwoody Village, for the first time, and this is public record, came to the table willing and ready to build interior streetscapes inside the Dunwoody Village over there where Fresh Market is and Barn and everything.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Now, we have to get the devils in the details.
Right.
And those darn things called legal.
Well, what I think is so fantastic is that they're game. They're ready to look at, we can shake this up a bit.
Yes, exactly. So we are actively engaged, and we had a concept. We paid something like $40,000 for an engineering design, concept design. So we've had skin in the game. We're at the table, they're at the table, and the development authority's at the table. I'm going to work my best to get that to come to fruition.
Yeah, that's great.
And then we just got a grant from the Atlanta Regional Commission for something like a 7-figure grant. It's $4 or $6 million. Apologize for not knowing everything about everything the city does, because by the way, in City Council, anybody can come up and ask me about anything.
Right.
And I've had people like, well, how come you don't know about that then? I'm like, well, let me know in advance, I'll go look it up, we'll have a conversation.
Yeah, right.
But the other exciting thing with the village is that the Chamblee-Dunwoody corridor, we got this Atlanta Regional Commission grant. I think it's around $6 million. So it could be
terrific.
4, pardon me, but it's to redo that village, make it more walkable. Think about
Oh, that's
downtown.
fantastic.
Think about downtown Alpharetta and what they did there. Not Avalon, but downtown Alpharetta. Of clean that up and make it real pedestrian friendly and bike friendly and streetscapes. And
So I think Alpharetta had a huge advantage, and that is that they started to build their city center in an area that there was, it was not pedestrian friendly at all, and they looked at everything that happened in the past, right? They looked at Roswell, they looked at other neighborhoods. They said, okay, how are we going to do this? And they did a great job of planning that. And now, so Dunwoody, let's see, the village was in place years before Alpharetta even became a city. So I think it's a little more challenging in Dunwoody because you got to go into infrastructure that's been there for years and change it and improve it. It's a little more difficult, I think.
right, it's infrastructure and it's privately owned property.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Sure.
But yet, there's all these different out parcels as well. When you think about the Dunwoody Village, if you pull up a GIS map, you'll see that there are independent, individual property owners as well.
Right.
Maybe we could pick up one of those and create a green space.
That'd be great.
Make a little public green. I'd like to see the post office relocate. Wouldn't that be awesome? Because it's right now
a lot of space.
It's a semi tractor trailer truck. It's a distribution.
Sure.
It should be in an industrial area.
Yeah.
Now
right.
I'll say fine, keep a retail exposure there. Have a little retail shop.
Right, right.
But that whole area, that's not in accordance with our master plan of a walkable
So this is
public green
exciting.
town center.
I mean, regrettably, we don't have many hours to go through this, but I think that it does show this kind of cracks the box open, so everybody can see some of the things that are going on. And I'm impressed that you know as much as you do. While not knowing specific dollar amounts, I don't think that's an issue. You know these are big things that are happening. And every time I go to any event, I run into Joe. So speaking of somebody that's really accessible, you are very, very accessible, and I think that's really exciting. How much time does it take to be a city council member on top of your full-time job?
So, I still, I have a full-time job. I'm a project manager at Accenture Consulting, senior manager. I have a team of 17 people. I'm running a fixed fee project right now with the project go live in April. So yeah, I'm totally heads down. I was sitting in the parking lot on a conference call before I came in here, right? Mm-hmm. So I have to be, me personally, Joe Saginaw, I have to be extremely focused.
Right.
There is a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen things I could think of working on.
Right.
But when I went back and I said, like for instance in 2022, I had 4 major initiatives, 4 things strategically that I was working on. And that was my focus. And I had to just pivot back to is one of these 4, with an underlying 5th, by the way, which was safe streets and traffic calming and so on. That's my lane. So it ebbs and flows. I can go and I'm meeting somebody on the development authority for breakfast tomorrow. Right?
Okay. All right.
But you know what? I was on vacation last week and I did out of office and I unplugged.
Oh, good.
Right. Completely, and you have to recharge and do that.
Right.
So it really does ebb and flow. I can say it's easy to spend 2, 4, 6 hours easily a week. And then there's times where I'm meeting more frequently. I'm meeting a constituent citizen on Saturday morning for an hour, so.
Certainly, and I would think that a lot of weekend work ends up coming up with city council.
Well, we have our council meetings on Mondays. We get that packet notification on Wednesday nights, so it's really, you're looking at things maybe Thursday, Friday. you're working over the weekend reviewing those things as well.
Oh, I think it's impressive.
But back to how do you get things done?
Yes.
I'm a big systems procedure process person. We talked about tagging something on Facebook. I'm like, go to the city's website, dunwoodyga.gov. The first thing it does is pop you up and say, do you want to be on the city's email list? Number one. So be in the know. You'll get an email blast every week, the D list it's called.
It's fantastic.
It's a plethora of things, and it's not just what the city government's doing, it's what's happening in the city. And it's also, though, projects that we're working on. Last night, there was a public community meeting for our policing. We're currently doing a revamping of having a consultant study of our police force, of how we're structured, how we do law enforcement, from everything from budgeting to organization to deployment, how we deal with citizens.
Yeah, that's
right?
awesome.
So part one, be in the know. Part two is there are systems out there. So it's called See-Click Fix. We literally have a website. Our website, continually enhanced. There's a web page that you can go to, and it says how to get things done. Here's what do you need. So it's a branching logic. Is it a public works issue? It's a pothole. We have this app called See-Click Fix on my phone.
Wow.
Right? So log a pothole, it tells you right where your geolocation tells you where you are address-wise.
Oh, that's
Upload
terrific.
a photo. In about 2 minutes, you can log a ticket like that.
That's impressive. That's very impressive. Well, here we are. We're at Discover Dunwoody, and I'd love to see, how does Discover Dunwoody fit in with the city? What do you see our function?
Yeah, thanks so much. So back at cityhood, I was an outside, independent, at-large private citizen, but understand that there could have been a couple different relationships built the way the structure is. So you all get money, you get revenue from the hotel motel tax. There's a fee that happens. So that has been in place, and counties have them, cities have them, and so on. It's what they do with that. How is that organized, right? Some places could bring it in-house, and it's a part of the department of whatever inside the city government. And the city of Dunwoody said, no, we don't want to do that. We want to create a separate entity, which is now branded as Discover Dunwoody,
Right.
Convention Visitors Bureau, CVB, DMO, Destination Marketing Organization, right?
I'm impressed. He knows all this.
There
This
you
is
go.
good.
So if you follow these guys on social media, you'll see that they're out engaging with folks. I know at the end of the day, your mission is about driving revenue for hotel motel business.
Right.
However, in that said, I'm a big proponent of, as city council, I want to build a city for the people that live here.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make it cool and environmental environment and a fun, exciting place to live. And then if it's that way, then it'll be good for visitors too, right? So when I say people want to have these things to draw people in, like, you know what, if you have great parks, if you have great trails, if you have great restaurants, if you have great community places, if you have fun things to do, exciting arts and culture, then it's great for people who live there. Then it even just makes it better for the visitors. So
absolutely.
So you guys are hooked into that. You're doing all that, building that base, and so on, and helping sell Dunwoody up. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure when realtors show up there, they can hook into your materials and so on for corporate relocations. If it's good for a corporation to live here, it's great for their families to live here too.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, we are. Our mission is your mission. We're all on the same page, and I will tell you the work that the city council does to support us. And we recently were at a meeting because we have to get our budget approved by the city council, and we're able to sit down. And that's an interesting meeting. All of you should join that meeting because you get to see how each city council member would like to see us play around with our focus, and that's an important piece of feedback that we need. Well, Joe, I am so glad that you were able to join us here today. I hope you'll come back as we have other things that pop up. It would be good to hear more about the future of Dunwoody, and you're the guy that's connected to all that, so it'd be fun to talk to you. So thanks for coming. It's good to see you.
Great to be here, Mark. Thank you.
For the rest of you, thank you for watching another episode here with Discover Dunwoody. We are always looking for wonderful people to talk to, and when we do, we can't wait to deliver them to you. So we'll see you again soon. Thanks for tuning in.